listened to any of the episodes yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know how we started out?
Yep.
Okay. You want to start us off?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. I'm Kim Duke, and I'm married to an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Kim. My name's Chris. I'm an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
My name is Riley, and I'm an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Riley.
Hi, Riley.
So I want to say first off, like, I'm excited that you're here because we don't get to see each other as often as we used to in person. Riley and I met through photography and journalism. Was that like 6 years ago?
Yeah,
now?
it was like 6 or 7 years ago, something like that.
7 years ago, which is so bananas. And it's been super cool to see like how you didn't stop progressing when it comes to your photography. Like you've continued to do really, really well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I latched onto you really quickly because when I first met you, you were about to go to jail.
Yes. Yep.
And I think you were supposed to go for 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, my first, so I got, when my sentences were split apart into 3 segments of 6 months, 180 days served. I think the first time we met was at Alex's studio.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, it was, I think, a week maybe before I was supposed to go turn myself in for my first day.
You can actually pull that thing up a little bit too.
Yeah, you can move the thing
Because the arm goes, yeah, so you can adjust.
Right,
it.
then you don't have to. You don't have to lean.
Yeah, I have a slouching problem.
I do as well. Every time somebody says that, I'm like, oh, I'm slouching.
What?
Super big time. But so I latched onto you in the way that I've done like my whole life, which is that when I see good people, like people that I perceive to be good people, like ending up in shitty situations, I feel the need to intervene. Like for some reason, I think that I'm the one that's going to change their life, which is a problem that like I've, after treatment, like been able to address and realize that I do that. And so now I'm very selective with the people that I want to continue to give a shit about.
Now after treatment, you're selective?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Right? Wouldn't you say that? Because I pretty often would say like so-and-so is in trouble and I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
Forever and always. And one thing about you, which I think like you were the first person that I started to, because as soon as somebody would let on that they're not putting in the effort that I think that they should be putting in, I would be like, well, all right, fuck it then.
Yep.
But with you, for some reason, I felt the need to, when you would talk about a scenario, I would say, how did you end up in that scenario? Why were you around those people? Why, and like this and that, and like because I didn't want to not know the end of your story.
No, it's all under. I get that.
And we've had like I think we've always had like a connection in that we've been able to be really open with one another.
Yeah, like a mutual understanding that there's like basically like there's a reason, there's an reaction for every action.
Yeah.
Basically, there's something happened for something else to happen. Like there's always, for me anyways, that's how I think that, yeah, there's a bad situation happening, but what caused that bad situation? Like what has led up to this happening?
And I think when I learned that you were in recovery, there was a part of me that didn't really want to ask about it because it meant that I would have to address my own issue. And before I even like really knew that I had a problem, I think deep down I had some kind of understanding where
subconsciously, maybe.
Yeah, that I as long as I didn't bring it up, then we wouldn't have to have that discussion.
Yeah.
And not that you're the type of person that throws labels on people as far as that stuff goes, but like I think I was just trepid in that. So like, why don't you give us kind of your history of like when did you first use and all that stuff?
My first time, so it all started, I was 13 years old is the first time I drank, and I pretty much got drunk that first time and didn't stop until 23. But yeah, I think I just turned 23, and a month later went sober after that. So it started as a young kid, realized very quickly like, hey, if I just drink this, I can black out and not deal with a single problem that I have.
Sure.
I had a really hard time accepting depression, and found that was my escape. Though it wasn't the right decision, and it took me a decade to figure that one out. That was where I went to, and the older I got, the more things I was introduced to. And so it went from just drinking, and then it went to smoking weed, and then that worked for about 6-7 years, and then I got put on probation and couldn't smoke anymore, and was missing that crutch. I could still get away with drinking because it's not in your system as for long as everything else is, and that just kind of progressed. I got a little too deep with some people that I shouldn't have been involved with, and that led to a cocaine addiction for me, which from that just kind of stemmed out to went from cocaine to Xanax to come down from cocaine so I could sleep to I don't have a problem, I'm just going to drink and I'll fall asleep and we'll be good. And I tried getting sober multiple times. I mean, even though I was claiming I was sober, most of the time I wasn't. To me, sober was, I'm just not going to get drunk every day. I'm just going to do it one or two nights a week with no one he knows besides the 5 people that I'm with.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, when you're kind of, at least for me, like, you feel like if I can make somebody believe that I'm sober, then that's all that matters.
Yep. No, definitely.
And so you kind of create that excuse where it's like, well, if they think I'm sober, then I've got it under control enough to where it must not actually be a problem.
Well, that's like when you first told a couple people that you were going to quit drinking, and they're like, well, what'd you do?
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like you have to do something to have a problem. Like, because you weren't doing anything. And I remember you being like, well, this person said, well, what did you do? It was like numerous people are like, well, what did you do? Why does Kim want you to quit drinking? What is it that you've done? And it wasn't, you didn't want to be like, well, I drink every single night, a lot.
For me, that question is, well, what happened? What did you do? For me, it was like, well, what haven't I done is the real thing.
I want to get more back, like, to back it up a little bit. The environment that you grew up in.
Yeah.
Like, were your parents ever together?
My parents were together until my dad left when I was 8 years old. They weren't officially divorced until 10.
Okay.
From that point on, I pretty much lived with a single mom. My mom, she was a single mom with me and my sister. She worked 12, 14-hour days every day. So she left for work at 4 o'clock in the morning and then didn't come home until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I only saw her for an hour or two, and it wasn't her fault. She was just trying to provide for everybody. But that also gave me free reign to go do whatever I wanted. And as much as she tried, I mean, she did everything she could for me. But how are you going to force me to do something that when you physically can't be there to enforce it? So I was in a household where I was able to do pretty much what I wanted when I wanted with no repercussions from it because there wasn't anybody to make me pay for my actions, basically.
Yeah.
Like no follow through with repercussions, you could say.
Sure. Did your parents or relatives deal with addiction at all?
My dad did. I know my dad's side of the family has I don't want to name anybody, but my dad's side of the family definitely has a history of alcoholism and other drug addictions. My mom's side, we don't really know what is on hers. My mom was adopted. She doesn't know her birth parents. So we don't know anything about like genetics or anything. But yeah, with my dad's side, there's definitely a long list of addiction issues.
One thing that, so I was on somebody else's podcast last night. It's called Authentic, and I think that'll come out in like 2 or 3 weeks, I think he said. But one thing that we had talked about that I haven't really talked about it on here, which is there was a kid that I met when I was in treatment who both of his parents were addicts. One of them was even a dealer, and super young. I think said he was 11 when he first smoked weed. And he talked about how the way that his parents they knew the environment that they had created, that this was going to happen. They just so when it happened, they would say, like, it was kind of the do as I say, not as I do, but they didn't really seem to like lend any actual help.
Yep, that's exactly how it was with see, my mom and dad are so completely different different people. Like, put in perspective, my mom's been drunk, I think maybe no more than 5 times in her entire life, and she's 60 years old. Wow. She's never smoked a cigarette. She's never done drugs. And then you go to my dad's side, and he's the do as I say, not as I do, with I've done this, this, and this, but with nothing more than just don't do this. Just because I'm doing this or I did this doesn't mean you can go do this. I'm like, well, you didn't really give me a real reason why I shouldn't go do this. So nice pep talk,
Yeah. And I mean, I think that it's kind of like a nihilist viewpoint, which is that, of course this would happen. And even though they're saying, don't do that stuff, they know deep down that he's going to continue to use and end up just like them.
Yeah.
And like, rather than trying to remedy the situation with love, like they just kind of, and then the other twist of it is I had to like figure it out on my own. You're going to have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
But when it comes to
as parents, they were like
I know.
that?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
like you got to
that's
figure
what sucks.
it just gets to
Yeah.
a point where you're just like you got to figure it out, like.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you just feel, I don't know, I felt very alone when I got to that point where.
Sure. Sorry,
everyone-
bring that mic just a
Yeah. Get nervous of it. I don't like things in my mouth.
And this you can move around. Like it's,
Alright.
and if
I know.
it breaks, it's so cheap.
We'll just put it up here so that way.
There you go.
There you go.
That way,
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
lean back, I'm still into it.
You can still
Yeah.
breathe. Yeah.
But where were we at?
When it comes to your parents and like that whole, like I was gonna finish up with, when you accept it for some reason, they also think that you have to figure it out on your own. But when it comes to these hard drugs, like I think there's this weird idea that they'll survive. Oh, they're gonna be fine. I'm fine. They don't understand that kid. There's a really strong chance that he's gonna die.
Yeah, there's, for me personally, I didn't witness a lot of the, like, I definitely knew about the drug use when I was growing up, as much as they wanted to say they hid it and everything. I mean, my mom,
okay.
not my mom's side anyways, but I definitely knew about it. I wasn't not aware of it. I knew what was going around me.
Yeah.
And it was, when it came time for me getting in trouble for doing it, it was, how are you going to tell me not to do this and then leave to go do this? Like, it's like preaching to the choir at that point for me.
And I forget, do you have a sister?
I have a older sister, and then I have a half brother and two. I still consider them my step siblings, my sisters.
Oh, okay. Did your older sister deal with any of that stuff?
My older sister didn't really get into anything really. She dealt with depression more than anything. Wasn't much of a drinker. Still to this day isn't much of a drinker. That wasn't a huge smoker. Doesn't at all anymore. I mean, she took after more of my mom, I guess, in that aspect of she didn't find a release in it, basically the way that I found a relief from life.
Oh, sure. When it comes to school, like I have this vision of you where, like, which was similar to me in that, when you're in high school, people call you a stoner.
Yep.
Rather than addressing that you might have a problem.
Yep.
Like there's this accepted class that people throw you into, and then people associate that with you. So when they want to get high, they come see you.
Yep.
Did you deal with any of that?
Yeah, definitely. Me and my friends talk about this quite a bit, actually, where the change in viewpoint with just smoking weed in general, because it used to be there was a few bad apples, the stoner kids in high school. And then everyone was so against it. And the second everybody graduated, it flipped to where now everything's okay. And the same people that were just calling you a stoner and a piece of shit a month ago are now hitting you up like, yo, you want to smoke? I'm like, well, not really, but.
And so, I mean, you seem to have been thrusted into a life where you kind of had to get over shit really quickly. Like it was expected of you to get over things quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's crazy to think of how much the world's like changed their views on mental health. Even since, I mean, I'm only 24, but just in the last decade for me of mental health, from it, you just need to get over it to now, okay, let's get you help for it. I mean, it's just a huge change on view aspects to like where I was growing up, where something would happen where I should have to go talk to somebody about this. I should have to go work about this. And instead my mindset was like, just forget about it. You got to move on. You got to push past it. Don't cry about it. Just, if you don't think about it, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize back then, which what I do now, is not thinking about that and just pushing it off for so long. All it did was create a decade worth of disaster waiting to unravel. And just the longer I pushed it away, I guess, the worse it got. Till I hit the breaking point. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I mean, I was thinking too, like the amount of like you kind of seem to be in a bubble where like I wasn't used to people your age having the viewpoint that like disrespect has to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to like what like did you I don't mean to like throw anybody under the bus, but like were you abused when you were younger, or like how did that type of viewpoint come about?
It definitely the mental and some physical abuse. Obviously I don't want to bring in who with who, but it very young was not okay to be upset about things, and when I was yelled at for things, it wasn't okay to be upset about it. It was shut up and do whatever I'm being yelled at about. So I think I'd say 8 years old, I've figured out just don't talk, or whatever's happening, just don't talk about it. Don't worry about it. If it's not there, if you're not thinking about it, it's not there.
Sure. When did you adapt that viewpoint of, I can, if I show how strong I am, then people are gonna not talk to me the way that I don't want. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
I'd say 11 or 12 probably. I think probably when I hit middle school is where the mindset adapted. I'd say probably 6th grade and middle school was where that year changed for me. Where I wasn't tolerating things anymore. Yeah. It's like for me personally, as I dealt with enough that you're not going to talk to me like that anymore. But then I would go home and not say a thing. Yeah. And the people that were enforcing things, doing the shit to me, I wasn't talking up to, but if somebody had something to say at school, it's going to be dealt with.
Do you think it's because, mine's really loud, sorry. That when you were younger, you weren't allowed to speak out and say those things, so you built it up, so then when you're around other people your age or older or even younger, that's why you spoke up more?
Yeah, I definitely think it's because I went so long with not saying anything and being afraid to say something.
Yep.
I mean, be more afraid to just say something as a kid versus when I got to middle school and it was my peers and I was a bigger guy.
Yeah.
And it started just to be an intimidation thing for me. I know you can't do anything about this. I'm calling you out on it. We're going to do this. I think it's just all the years of silence. It built up and then just made me think that I need to say something 24/7 about it. And I still, to this day, I can't help myself. Like something goes on and I still think that I need to be the one to say something about it when there's certain times where we spoke about this earlier. There's certain times like with everything going on where I think some people are talking when they should just be listening. And that's myself. There's sometimes I just can't help myself and I just go and say something and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should have just not said a thing and it would have been a better solution.
You're growing and still learning.
Yeah.
Well, and
I think it's hard too when you're young and you're using substances. When you're young, you mess with your frontal lobe so much that now as in your middle 20s, you're still trying to learn how to work that frontal lobe of your brain and all that.
Yeah, and I actually have damage to my frontal lobe.
Add a brain injury to it. Yeah. Why don't let's go back. Let's just have him tell his story. So you started, first time you said you got drunk, you were
13 years old, yeah. I was UV blue.
So then, you went through all those. Let's talk about some events, like traumatic events that happened while you were using. Because sometimes people always have that rock bottom, but it's very fascinating when you hear people's stories where there's like, man, that would have been my rock bottom, but you're like, nope, I'm going to keep going. That was not quite my rock bottom yet.
Yeah,
you want to talk about.
Yeah, I think I didn't have my real rock bottom moment until I was probably 17.
Okay.
That was where that was where it just came and hit me like, this is where I'm going. This is it.
Was that when you were going to go to jail then or?
No, that would have been right around my first suicide attempt.
Okay.
Right after one of my best friends had committed suicide. Sorry, I'm trying to think.
No, that's okay.
You're fine.
Here. As far as like traumatic events and stuff growing up, it was just kind of like the constant fear abuse. I mean, it wasn't as the older I got, it wasn't as much physical as it was a mental abuse, and them not even realizing that they were doing it, and it just kind of added up over year after year of just having to push things off.
Yeah.
And nothing really traumatic started happening with my life besides like my parents splitting.
Yeah.
And mean, that was a lot to deal with because it
especially
took,
you were young.
well, and it wasn't a clean divorce.
No,
it
took years.
It was, my mom didn't want to let go of it, and my dad was already moved on and had a kid with someone else already, and it was just a constant listening to, well, they did this and they did that, and well, here's my two experiences, so why am I stuck still going to the house when I don't want to be there? And it sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, I think the thing with you is that you don't recognize how, and I hate to like throw it at you like that, but well, actually, here, I'll say this. You used to not recognize some of the things that happen in your life, that they're not normalcies. They're not things that happen to everybody else, and not things that you should be subjected to.
Yeah, no, definitely. It took probably until getting sober, honestly. Actually sober, not, I'm quarter sober, but to actually realize like some of the shit that went on growing up, that's not what normal families are like. And like, I have a lot of friends that were basically all my friends growing up were middle to upper class friends. And then I was this kid with the only one of the group that our parents weren't split up. They were two totally different aspects. I mean, it took me forever to realize like a lot of the things that happen. And like, if I would talk about it with my friends, they would be like, well, that can't actually happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah. And now looking back, it's like, I understand why my friends, when I would talk about things, didn't understand what was going on, or like when I would say something, they would to them it was a bigger deal on some things, where to me it was like, this is a once a week thing that's happening. Like, why? Yeah. What's so off about this?
Well, and I think that lent to kind of, have you heard of trauma bonding?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the situations that you put yourself in was because these people understood, at least to some extent, some of the tumultuous things that you had been through.
Yeah.
So where you wanted to get better, these types of people were familiar to you, and they understood the shit that you were going through.
Yeah.
So even though everybody had things that they needed, I think should have been working on, there was that bonding of like, this is the stuff that like, this is why we're all here together. This is why we're doing these things together.
Yeah, no, definitely. Being able to talk with, like, when I started to find more people, the older that I got, the more things I shouldn't have been getting into, I found more people that were understanding as to why we were doing this. And to me, that became almost like a coping mechanism for me, is being able to find someone like, oh, hey, yeah, we're doing coke at 18 years old. We're up all night and we got to go to school in the morning and we're fucking hammered. But we both just went through this traumatic thing together, and this is how we deal with this. Like, this is okay because this is, nobody else understands, but we understand each other. So this is okay for us to be doing in the background. I mean, I hid a lot of things from a lot of people for a very long time. A lot of the only people that knew what I was doing was because they were there with me doing it. I mean, I was very good at hiding things, I guess. You could say. I don't know if my mom listens to this or my dad listens to this, they're probably going to hear some things they had no idea about. I mean, I got just saying the cocaine addict, as far as they know, it's only been a couple times. I mean, they only know about it because I tried to kill myself, and when they did a blood examination, they found that in my system. That's the only reason why. And it was, it's just this one time. Yeah. And it wasn't just this one time. It was just this one time every day for years.
And to go back a little bit more, were you around, like, I know that there were people that I went to school with where it was almost laughed at, drinking and driving.
Yep.
Because you're already doing something that you're not supposed to. If we let on that we can't get home because we're, those questions are going to be asked, like, why can't you drive home? Why can't you make it home? So the amount of drinking and driving that I saw when I was in school was a lot, and I would imagine.
Oh yeah, probably. For the longest time, as embarrassed as I am about to say this, I always joked that I had my triple D license. I was always the designated drunk driver because I'd done it so many times, completely blacked out, been pulled over, and nothing happened. And so that just, okay, I can do this and get stopped and not remember it, and nothing's gonna come of it. It was a normal thing. It became extremely normal for me and my friends to just get drunk and drive. Or if one of us was sober enough to drive, we all got in that person's car, and that's how we got around to the next wherever we had to be. And there wasn't ever repercussions. I mean, I could come home wasted, and my mom was just oblivious to it. I mean, I think one time I was actually caught drinking when I was a kid, and it was because I was so fucked up that one of my friends had to bring me home because I was puking so bad that they thought I was going to die from it. And that was the first realization with my mom that I was even drinking. I mean, that was 4 years into it. I was 17 when that happened. So I'd already been 4 years deep of consistently 3, 4, 5 times a week getting blacked out drunk at that age and no one noticing it.
So when did you start to have consequences? And it doesn't have to be legally, but when did you start to notice consequences of using?
As far as like
so if a friend got hurt or if somebody's car got totaled, things like that.
I mean, even when people's cars ended up getting hit, we had a story. One of the first places I lived at when we moved out, we had what we called Project X Townhome Edition. It was a huge party. I mean, there's hundreds of kids between these two houses, and it ended up people fighting in the streets, cars getting smashed out, blood everywhere, and no repercussions. The cop came. Nothing happened to a single person that was there. Someone that left my house that night was drinking on Xanax and rolled his car into a swamp, and there was no repercussions for any of it. I mean, we got away with everything that was going on, and there's just not a repercussion for it. I started feeling a consequence, or like seeing consequences for actions, I guess you would say, once it got me in legal trouble. And it was until that point that none of that really mattered to me, I guess, because I wasn't being held accountable for anything. There wasn't accountability for my actions unless I said something shitty, which, sure. I mean, it happened on a daily basis. I would say something terrible that I don't even remember saying. And that was the only consequence, is someone was mad at me until I saw him the next time, give him a drink or give him a bump, and we're back to normal.
I've just recently been starting to think about this. There's more to it than just using, like whatever it is, drugs or alcohol. When you're younger, it's getting away with it too, and then being able to go and recall those parties and those situations with your friends, and like, so there's like a weird sense of accomplishment too. Yeah, like saying that you blacked out and nothing, like you're not in trouble. Yeah. So like people think that it's like bragging, but really I think subconsciously people are like, I can't believe that we got away with that.
For me, when I tell stories about things that I've done, like I still, on my phone, a lot of people ask me why I still have all these videos on my phone of me completely fucked up out of my mind, or things that were going on. Like, why would you want to go back and look at that? And for me, I can't believe that I was able to get away with doing this, or that I did these things and there was no consequence for it. Yeah. I mean, I got away for the amount of run-ins with police that I've had, and the amount of consequences I've actually had the number's way lower than what I've gotten away with. And every time I would get busted with something, I would be so pissed, and it's fuck the cops, and everyone sucks. They're out to get me. And in reality, I'm like, well, they busted me on this minor thing when I've been doing a long list of other things I shouldn't have been.
Yeah, and it fucks up that rhythm of getting away with stuff. Yep. And so because I think we don't want to accept that it's a bad thing. No. Because there's so many good things associated with it at the time, right? Yep. Like it means that you're with friends, or it means that, you're not at home, whatever the situation may be. Like when those consequences come around, it's contrary to what you feel like, yeah. As being a positive thing in your life, or something that's an escape in your life.
Yeah. I used to, just hearing you say that just clicked in my head as many times as I used to not look at the negatives. Like if I was to 5 years ago, if you were to ask me to put a pros and cons list together of my pros for doing drugs and drinking and my cons list, my pros list is going to be a lot longer than what my cons list is going to be. If you're going to ask me, so a couple months ago, I was super depressed and was on the verge of relapsing. I drove to the bar, and on my way to the bar, decided, let's run through our head what's going to happen here. Made a pros list and the cons list, and I had one pro on my pros list, and it was that I was going to be able to temporarily ignore what's going on, and there's just a drop list of all the possibilities of what could happen. And I know a lot of them sound drastic, but me knowing me and how I am and the medications that I'm on and how unpredictable I can be, nothing would surprise me. I mean, I could do anything on the what could happen list, and it wouldn't surprise me because I know. Like, you never know what you're capable of when when you're not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like something that they say in treatment is that it, hadn't happened yet. Like, rather than saying nothing, there was no consequences for what I was doing.
Yeah.
The approach should be nothing's happened yet.
Yeah.
And there's always the possibility. I mean, there's 7 billion people in the world. It's just statistically speaking, something that looks like a miracle or like the end times is bound to happen once or twice in somebody's lifetime. Like, there's always a possibility for the absolute worst outcome.
Yeah. No, and it took, all going back to basically, I mean, it took until I'm 20 months sober right now. It took till 20 months ago for me to actually be able to have a clear enough head to realize what I've done, what I should have been in trouble for, all the things that it could have happened, and I can't even be mad about the things that I've been in trouble for. It's like there's so many things that I should have been held accountable for. So many things I was not only because I wasn't caught, I was caught on a lot of things, and I just wasn't held accountable for it.
Oh, sure.
And for me, it was well, I can get away with this. I can do this. And now looking back at it, it's like, what the fuck were you thinking, dude? Like I said, I used to brag about having the Triple D license, and now I'm embarrassed to say it. Like, sure. And now I sound like the hypocrite who's had a breathalyzer in his car for a year and a half now, telling my friend to give me your fucking keys. I'm driving. Like, why would you drive when I literally cannot drink and drive? Oh, nothing's gonna happen. Well, when you're $14,000 into a DWI, tell me that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, nobody seems to want to admit, like, there's so many people that say they've never drank and drove. One beer and then driving afterwards, you have drank and drove.
Yeah.
Like, people who say, like, I was just buzzed, that you're still, like, your mind state is altered enough to recognize that something feels different about your body, and you're still deciding to drive.
Yep.
I can't think of an adult that I've met that hasn't done that.
Yep. You just saying I was buzzed, I wasn't drunk. Okay, well, your idea of buzzed is a lot different from what the legal law is, because I could have said that I was buzzed and I could have blown a .14.
Yeah.
And
especially if you're a chronic drinker.
Yeah,
chronic drinkers are sober at like 0.14, 0.15.
Yeah, that's I used to drink a liter of whiskey a day. Yeah.
So your sober was probably a 0.14.
Yeah. No.
Your buzzed was probably 0.18, 0.2 ish.
Yeah, my blackout point. When I got my DWI, I blew a .198 4.5 hours after being arrested. So I stalled taking my breathalyzer for 4.5 hours and still blew.
People usually detox 0.02 an hour, so add 0.08. So you're probably 0.27.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely up there, and the amount of alcohol I used to be able to drink is disgusting. Yeah. I mean, to me, to think about now.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way anybody should be able to put away a liter of whiskey at a time.
Yeah.
But let alone do it and then do it every single day of the week and function as a normal human. I cannot believe that I did not have alcohol withdrawals.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, did you ever go through withdrawals?
I didn't go through alcohol withdrawals. I went through cocaine withdrawals. And I also went through Xanax withdrawals from trying to get over the cocaine withdrawals.
Okay.
Ended up
no alcohol withdrawal?
I mean, feeling like shit when I first quit drinking was just thinking I'm finally just getting this out of my system. I mean, I didn't have like
the shakes, sweaty, hallucinations,
No. Wow.
nothing like that.
I didn't have any alcohol withdrawals. I mean, and for the last from 21 basically until when I got 23, when I got my DWI, I had steadily drank a significant amount of alcohol on a daily basis. I mean, I'm talking $100 bar tabs at 2-for-1s on a daily basis, and then going home with a liter. And I could not believe I didn't feel any withdrawals from that. But then I'd go on a week-long coke bender, and I would feel it for the next 2 weeks.
That's really interesting. I remember the chemical dependency person that I was talking to in the hospital. I forget the number that I blew.
You're a 0.11. It was your serum alcohol.
So
you blew a 0.11 here.
Okay.
When they did a breathalyzer, and that was a weak blow.
Yeah. So I remember that, having that conversation with this CD person, and I was like, that doesn't sound like anything. It doesn't like a normal alcoholic. I feel like their numbers are super high. And she was like, that between 0.11 and 0.13 are the people that I worry about the most. They seem to like have this illusion or delusion that they have it under control and that number is low. She said that in her experience, those people seem to have the biggest problem with using.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super interesting.
Very interesting, yeah.
Because I think that it's by the time that person is caught or having to deal with their situation, that just happens to be the number that they are at when they're having to face whatever consequence.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. Because if you think about it, I don't know when you stopped drinking that night. And then, I mean, obviously you had an incident that kind of put you a little altered in your mind state then too. But yeah, when you blew into the breathalyzer, it was like 0.11. And I've seen weak blows in the ER, and yours was a very weak blow. And even the officer said that.
You were there when I blew?
Mm-hmm. I was standing with the officer holding you up while you blew.
Oh. I didn't remember you being there for that part of it.
I don't remember when I was arrested talking to anybody. I called my mom, my sister from the jail. I read the only thing I remember from my entire arrest, then the entire night until I woke up in the jail cell in the hole, not just in jail. I was in the hole, and recognized.
What's the hole?
So the hole is like the segregation in the jail. Basically, they put inmates there when they do something they shouldn't, like fighting. You go to the hole instantly. It's like a calm down room. There's no lights. There's no windows. There's a constant light on, but there's no windows. You have no sense of time. You don't get a blanket. You don't get a pillow.
Oh my God.
You get the mattress that's on there on a concrete pad, and that's it. There's nothing else in there. They cover the mat over the window. On mine, basically, I had an aggression tag on my window. Because at the point when I was put in there, it was because I was being aggressive.
Okay.
And I have no recollection of this. When I woke up in jail that day, I had to hit the intercom after 20 minutes of sitting on the floor trying to figure out what I could have possibly done to get here. I had to go ask what I was in there for. When they told me I was there for being arrested for DWI, the only thing I had to say back to them is, what the fuck do you mean I got a DWI? I was at my own fucking house.
Oh, wow.
And I had no recollection. And then I got my affidavit back, and I read the entire thing. I don't remember a single thing happening besides when that officer asked me how much I had to drink, and I told him, well, evidently a lot. And then when he asked me to do a field sobriety test, I told him, nope, not doing this dog and pony show. Just take me to jail. It's the only thing I remember from my entire arrest.
Is that when you decided to get sober then, was after your DWI?
Yep. Yeah, I woke up in jail. I had spent the weekend there. My mom came to court for me on Monday. She wasn't too adamant on getting me out. She had wanted me to be on the home breathalyzer system, which basically I got two options for my bail. I had a $10,000 bail with don't have any consequences. Basically, I get just let go and I have to show back up for court. Or I had a $1,000 bail, but with the exception that I have a home breathalyzer system to monitor me, basically to keep sure that I wasn't drinking. And my mom did not believe that I was going to stay sober if she got me out of jail.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
did you have the one where it would take your photo too?
So I actually didn't. I ended up getting the $10,000 bail. But with the condition, because of what I blew, my lawyer had said that I was gonna need a breathalyzer in my car. Either way, they weren't gonna give me a work permit. They were gonna give me a breathalyzer. And so my mom said, "Okay, we'll do that then."
Okay.
But yeah, I got a picture taken of me. So I basically have to blow into it to start the vehicle. It goes off once the first time after 5 to 10 minutes, and then every 20 to 45 minutes after that. It depends on the time of day and like day of the week. So like Monday through Wednesday, it doesn't go off that much. Like pretty much every 40 minutes it'll go off. But the second we get to Friday or Thursday night, where it's Thursday at 5 p.m., every 20 minutes it goes off.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's the same way the entire weekend. Like driving here, I live in Coon Rapids, and driving here it went off probably 3 times, and I'm only 40 minutes from here.
Wow. Man, it's the people that I...
Well, wait. I want to keep going. So you decided after that to get sober.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
I basically, when I woke up in jail, that was it.
Yeah.
the week prior. So
when your mom got you out, did she talk to you about it? Like, Riley, now I'm concerned about you.
Yeah,
it
finally all came out basically when it got to that point where I was in jail for it. My mom was crying when I got in the car. It was we gotta fix this, bud.
Yeah.
Like it's time to change. And for me that was the realization I was doing so good on probation. For something prior before this that happened, I've been on probation since I was going back to stupid decisions under the influence.
Sure.
And I was doing really good, and then I did this and could have went to prison for doing this and fucked up. I'm like, okay.
Because you violated your probation.
Yeah. Okay. So I actually didn't end up getting in trouble for my DWI. I was in trouble for my probation violation for committing the DWI.
Okay.
So at that point, I got extremely lucky with only having to do 30 days, pay fines, and then follow whatever I basically got court ordered to go to the therapist. When I was arrested and they were talking to me about why I drink that much, I basically told them that's the only thing that makes me not want to kill myself. And from that statement I gave them, they basically court ordered me to see a therapist. And then I had to do whatever she says, basically had to do whatever she told me I had to do. And that was my conditions of release.
Okay.
It was just the 30 days, pay the fine, and then I have to do
therapy.
Have to do therapy. It wasn't an option. And
were you open to therapy then at that point? Nope.
I was not for therapy in the slightest bit. I actually pushed out doing therapy for almost a year until I physically got warned that if I do not start doing this, they're just going to say, you're done. And then I finally went and did my intake. They decided to put me in EMDR therapy for PTSD and was not about it. Very first visit, I was very open about it. And
that you weren't into therapy?
Yeah, I told her, told her everything that's going on. I explained, I've done therapy. It doesn't work for me. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like talking to strangers. I don't like talking about my problems to myself, let alone tell somebody I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And she was I understand. And she asked me the same question on my last day of therapy, which I still continuing to go until this COVID stuff started.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I personally don't do good on FaceTime calls. Yeah, it's not for me.
I feel like people don't feel that contact.
Yeah.
It's a little different for people. Yeah.
So once everything opens up and in-person visits will start again, I'll probably end up going back.
So interesting. You went in not being open.
What
was it that?
Just my night terrors. I mean, I deal with night terrors almost every night of the week to the point where I only sleep 2 hours a night. And then I'm a nutcase throughout the day because I'm so exhausted that I just don't think things through, and I'm very irritated about everything. Like I said, the first thing she asked me this question on my first day, and then my discharge day was, what do you want to accomplish in therapy? And my answer was not anything to do with benefiting myself. My answer was to get probation to leave me the fuck alone. And so that was my first one. And then she asked me the same question when she was sending my paperwork in to my probation to say, hey, he doesn't need to come here anymore. He's choosing to come here. Yeah. And she asked what I had benefited or what I want to continue, if I can continue therapy, why do I want to be there? What do I want to accomplish with being in therapy? And it went from wanting probation to leave me the fuck alone to I want to be able to get more than 4 hours of sleep a night. It got so bad the first month I did the therapy. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with EMDR therapy.
I am a little bit. Yeah. It works. Yeah. It's like you basically, you can explain because you actually have gone through it.
Yeah. So basically they bring up every terrible thing that you have ever gone through, and you get to sit and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And yeah, it's a repetition every week. You learn one new thing to go and talk about the same other things you've been talking about. And it gets so much worse before it gets better, to the point where I was like, you know what, they can fucking arrest me. I'm not putting myself through this anymore. Because the first month I went from sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night to now I can't sleep at all because I'm panicking the entire night. And I'm like, this isn't fucking worth it. They can throw me in jail. I don't care. And then something just happened. It finally started. I started learning the exercises. A lot of it's like tapping repetitions. And I finally started trying to use them at home when it would happen. And the first night that I did it and it worked, I passed out while doing it, and I slept until my alarm went off at 4:00 in the morning.
Oh wow.
And from that point on, I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I had a very closed mind about a lot of things up until getting sober. And once getting sober, just being able to open my mind to other things and realizing, okay, maybe if you're not such a dink about doing it and just try it versus just shutting it out, like be open to it, maybe it'll work. And it started to work. And
I think it's such a long process.
it is. And it's such a long process.
And traumatizing.
That's the thing is
you relive all those traumas.
I can totally understand why it does not work for a lot of people and why it makes it worse for a lot of people. It made me to the point where if it wasn't for the government not being able to, if I was, well, how do I say this? It was for the best interest in me that I cannot own a gun. To that point where I'm like, I can't fucking do this anymore. My meds aren't helping. This bitch is making me go insane. I'm reliving everything I never wanted to talk about. I've been bottling this up for 24 years, and now I get to fucking sit and relive it all day, every day.
Sober,
yeah. That was my hardest thing with doing the therapy, because I feel like the therapy wouldn't have benefited me at all if I wasn't sober. Mm-hmm. I feel like it would just be, and I think it would have sparked more of my rage while blacked out, versus now that I did sober, yeah, it made it a lot worse. It's traumatizing. I mean, there's so much stuff that got brought up that like I thought was an okay thing, and then when my therapist jaw dropped as I said this with such calm, and she just says, you realize that how you're saying this and how you're talking about this and how you reacted with this that's not a normal thing to go through, and that's not a normal reaction to push that off.
That's what I was trying to get at earlier too.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many fucked up things that we go through that it's not until you say it to the right person and they go, "Oh, hey,
yeah,
you shouldn't have to deal with that."
Some of the things like, yeah, just the things that I've said, and like I have no problem, like had no problem thinking about them. Like, yeah, it's not that bad. Could have been a lot worse. And they're like, that's not, like that's what makes people do the things that they do. It's like thinking that how you were treated and that these things that happened to you, well, they were okay because nothing happened to the people that did it to them. So now you get that mindset that, well, if they can fucking do it to me, why can't I do whatever I want to whoever I want?
Wow.
And like, it just, I think a lot of my anger and my issues with people and my views on people is because of how I was treated and how my reactions to how I was being treated were not valued as anything. Then more of a, you're a kid, or don't be a pussy.
Sure.
Or while we're on that topic, I am so sick of the male stigma of be a man. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
I finally started crying about my problems, and man, did they start getting a lot better.
Yeah.
But that was the stigma I grew up with. I mean, even as a little boy, a kid should cry. Kids should cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to think your emotions and allow your emotions to come out. I spent 23 years bottling them up and not letting anybody see it.
Or it was coming out as anger instead.
It was coming out destructive.
Sadness became always destructive and anger.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I never had an answer for what I was doing.
Yeah.
Well, are you okay? Like, let me ask this first. Are you okay with talking about BPD stuff?
Yeah.
So when it comes to your diagnosis, like how old were you when somebody had brought up BPD?
So I actually didn't get diagnosed with the BPD. I got diagnosed with manic depressive disorder.
Okay.
Which how I was explained, I mean, you might have a better explanation than what I have. How I was explained it is it's basically bipolar disorder, but in a longer, like, not as often of transitions, and it stays longer. Basically, is like your mood swings, instead of it just being like a constant flip. It's you go from months of being happy to the next day you're on the edge of ending it.
Okay.
That didn't happen for me until couple months ago.
Oh, really?
I guess. Or it would have been last summer whenever I started going to therapy and went and saw a psychiatrist. I mean, I had been brought up to, they had thought I had it my entire life. I mean, I've been committed to a psych ward multiple times. The first time I was 7 years old. So,
what?
Or 8 years old. The first time I went to a institution, I got locked up for saying I was going to kill myself, was I was 8 years old with a pair of scissors in my mom's back of her van. Like, I mean, for people, that's like, realizing that now, and like when I hear people say that depression's all in your head, thank you. No shit. I would have never guessed. Like, it's all in your head. Yeah, it's a mental fucking disorder.
Yeah.
No shit. And like realizing that I tried to do that at that young of an age. Why do I even know what that is?
Yeah,
for one.
Yeah.
And for two, why is that going through an 8-year-old's head?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where I tried so hard to fight that I didn't have mental illness, and then I didn't need to take depression meds. I don't need pills to be happy.
Yeah.
And now I need my meds or it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
I'm too on edge. I have the manic depressive disorder. And when I get into one of my swings, is what they call them, like into one of the swings with it, it goes from I'm okay to, dude, like, do we need to commit you? I mean, I had this conversation with someone today. Do you need to be committed? I'm like, no, I needed my meds back.
Yeah.
And it's the other problem with meds is when you are on the meds for so long and then you have an issue with getting them refilled. I'm on week 2 right now of not having my medications for manic depressive disorder. I have been on a downward swing to the point where today, if my little brother wasn't with me in my car, I literally was about to drive into traffic and just be done. And it's like every 5 minutes, I'm just like, yeah, it's not that bad, but I really just don't want to do this anymore. I can't take this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And
well, fuck, man. Okay. So when you used to bring up BPD to me,
yeah,
it was in a way that like you wanted to make sense of how you were feeling,
yeah,
and because people had thrown this label on you,
yeah,
you almost wore it as like a yield sign,
yeah,
like, hey, pause. I'm doing this because of my BPD.
Yeah,
I know this is why
It was a crutch for me. I use it as a
there we go.
a crutch. It was this is why I'm acting like this.
But I think more like what I saw in you was you just wanted it to make sense.
Yeah, there's so many things that don't make sense to me still. I mean, and nothing would have ever made sense if I didn't quit drinking. And now it's like I've had the last 20 months to recollect and reflect on what I've done in the last 23 years. And it's a lot of things don't make sense. And I used to use a lot of things like my depression and my anxiety and what they thought was bipolar disorder as a crutch to go on, well, this is why I fucking act like this. It's not my fault. There's nothing I can do about it, which at this time, if I would have been asked what I could have done about this now versus back then, I would have given you, well, there's nothing I can fucking do. This is how I am. Versus now it's like I'm doing everything I can. I'm putting in the work with a therapist. I'm on my medications. I'm talking about things. I have a really hard time opening up about anything with anyone because I don't trust anybody. Like I feel like I can't trust anybody because my whole life the people that I should have been trusting I couldn't fucking trust to even keep me safe.
Yeah. Well, and I found out recently that and it sucks because when you've had that label, like you start to think that any reaction that you have is because of that. So a thing that I found out was that people's words and opinions feel like they're directed towards you and a question of your character potentially with every conversation. And so every little argument has so much weight. And when you walk around and have conversations like that so often, you're gonna, I can't think of anybody who would be able to do that without lashing out from time to time, and like coupled with the environment that you were in. And I just, I've always wanted to stay connected to you because I have always seen that side of you that I truly enjoy. I'm lucky that like I'm only ever around you at like your best.
Yeah, and see that's like that's I totally understand. And I think the only time you've ever seen me having one of my bad times wasn't even a bad time because I was at a show. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he's fucked up, but he's enjoying himself. Like you never had to deal with what we describe. I call it Riley ups.
Oh,
we all joked. Riley ups is dead. His last name, obviously. It's when I would get fucked up and drink or do drugs, Riley ups came out. It was no longer Riley Downs. It was Riley ups.
Wow.
It was this new person. This is fun Riley. This is exciting Riley. This is fucking try him and let's see, like, things are gonna get cool. Like,
wow.
And it was like there's a whole different side of me with that other persona, and it was like people didn't see that. A lot of people, even when I was drinking, sometimes they'd only see the Riley downside of it. They never saw the Riley upside of it.
Yeah.
Like, would be at a show having a great time. Oh, drunk Riley's a blast. Now we're leaving the show. I'm 8-ball deep in coke and a fucking $120 bar tab, driving home, and now this is where the real party's about to start, where I'm blacked out and my mind starts seeing things happen, and I go from being fun to what the fuck is this psycho doing real quick, and it doesn't make sense. A lot of the things I've done don't even make sense. Like,
that's why, like, only a couple of times where I think you could actually hear me getting frustrated with you was because that didn't make sense to me, because there was this side of you that I knew that if this was the only version of people that, or the only version of you that people got to see, then they would see the person that I love calling my friend, and that I, you know, enjoy having these conversations with. And like, yeah, so it sucks. And it's different now that I know, like, because even up until I actually went to treatment, like, we still had those conversations of like, why can't you just handle one drink? What, like,
Me?
what? Yeah. Well, anybody, like,
yeah,
it wasn't just
I get
you.
asked
Like,
that all the time. I still go out with friends. To this day, I'll be out with friends, and they'll ask me if I want a beer or something. And I'm like, no. And they're like, hey, one day when we're sitting around, and it's okay, you'll be able to just have one and be done. I'm like, no, that's my problem. That's how it started. Every time I got sober, that's how it fucking started again, is I'm just going to have a beer. One beer turned into two.
Yeah.
Once a week.
And then it goes back to whiskey.
Then it goes back to, okay, let's take a shot. All right, now we're doing mixies. And now I'm back to balls deep in a liter of whiskey every single fucking day. But, and it's a repeating pattern.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say was that idea that just snap out of it.
Yeah.
Like, if I just tell you in like this sober manner that you can be normal, if I just say it, it's
just control yourself. It's like, fuck you.
It's
doesn't
insane.
work like that. Just because your brain can work like that doesn't mean my brain can work like that.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't work the way it should, I think, half the time. That's what I get a lot of anxiety, because I try to comprehend things and I just can't comprehend it. And I don't know if it's because I'm just not listening. I don't know if it's because of something that's wrong with me. I don't know if it's because of my previous brain damage. It's like, my brain doesn't work the same way. Like, our brains don't work the same way. That's why I like talking with. That's why our friendship has worked. You're able to listen to what has happened, and instead of seeing me as a piece of shit, you can be like, why did this happen? And we can talk about why this happened, and you can understand why it happened, versus just instantly, well, fuck him. Yeah. Like,
yeah, man. And especially now, like, I am like, you're the only, well, yeah. I have friends who are in recovery, but you're the closest to what I went through as far as like the mental health side of things, which a lot of people don't want to talk about. Like, once the addiction's done, then it's all fucking sunshine and rainbows. Like, that's not going to be like, when I was, after withdrawals were done, my body was like, oh, hey, I don't know if you remember or not, but we have anxiety and major depression. And so I would just cry, or I would have these
panic attacks.
these massive panic attacks because I had suppressed that shit for so long. So like, sobriety is only the beginning of like, sobriety really just means that you now are, with an unaltered mind, able to kind of confront the world.
Yeah, process what you've been through.
Yeah.
I totally understand where you're coming from with that. It's like, people don't realize that underlying reason, like, even if you only see the good, like, only if you saw the good side of me drunk or me fucked up, you only saw the good times. Well, what could have been causing that? Even if I'm having a good time at the moment, I promise you, an hour before I started drinking, I wasn't having that good time. And it wasn't like that was just, it's not that was just a one-time thing like that. It was every time, every single day. I didn't want to deal with my depression. I didn't want to deal with my problems. There's a lot of times I don't want to deal with my problems, but the only difference is now I don't have blacking out as a crutch to lean on. Is now I can't just push that problem away from my head. It's going to stay there, and I need to figure out a way to fix it.
Yeah.
And those underlying things, like, just.
No, I did. Yeah. That's
So
why
much
I feel
more.
lucky to have you as a friend. So it sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you go to treatment?
I did not go to treatment.
Okay.
I started attending AA meetings.
Okay.
I also refused to do the steps.
Okay.
I had a mutual understanding with the leader of the program that I was with. Basically,
But how did you actually achieve sobriety then? Like, did you quit cold turkey?
I quit cold turkey. I got out of jail on Monday morning. Coming down, I actually did a bunch of Molly. The night I got arrested. I don't even remember doing that. The last thing I remember from my night is doing a beer bong of what I thought was beer, and it was a beer bong completely full of Black Velvet.
Jesus.
Killing it, burping, saying, well, that was stupid, and walking to my back door, and that's the last thing I remember from my entire night. And I got out that Monday night, I think I got out of jail, and decided, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And it went cold turkey. I cut off a lot of friends. I quit doing my favorite thing, the thing that I loved the most, and I'm still not doing it, was shooting shows.
Oh.
I love music. Music's my life. I got into the music scene and was fortunate enough to become friends with a lot of local musicians that open up opportunities for me, and I still have opportunities that I could take, and I physically can't. I had to take, for me to focus on my sobriety without doing the treatment aspect, is I had to cancel a lot of my life. I put a lot of things on hold. I put a lot of friendships on hold. There's a lot of friends that I don't even talk to anymore. It was unless they say, hey. I mean, if I bump into them, and then when I bump into them, it's like, I still can't be around you. Like, I can't put myself around that kind of shit anymore.
That's what's so interesting to me, and I don't think we haven't talked about it, but you don't hear about that anymore. People trying that and succeeding.
Yeah.
It's a lot more rare than especially because everything is so accessible now.
Yeah.
And it's integrated into so many activities that getting away from an environment that would make you think that you're okay to drink is so fucking hard.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're trying to do it on your own, it's like, how the fuck?
But even you going to treatment, I was nervous because, like, I know alcohol's everywhere. I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
But, like, my drive from here to Hazelton, it's like dealer. Chris's dealer is right there. Like, one time we were going even through the small town right where the treatment center is, and I was with I went with Chris's parents a lot, and I'm like, a dealer. Like, how hard is it to stay sober when your dealer is literally on every block, every corner?
It's
at the bowling alley, movie theater. I mean, it's everywhere.
I quit doing. I put myself into more of a depression my first 3 months of getting sober than I think I dealt with my entire life, and it was because I made a conscious decision that I can't let my family down anymore. I can't let myself down anymore. Like, I don't know how many times that I'm gonna wake up in a hospital bed and wake up again. Every time I've tried to kill myself, I've been blacked out hammered besides the first time when I was 8 years old. My response almost every time was, why am I cuffed to the bed? Did I hurt somebody? No, you tried to kill yourself. And I just, all right.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say about it. I mean, like, I've had so many times, like, why did I wake up? I shouldn't have woken up. And I can't put myself in that anymore. And I can't put that on my family anymore as much. I mean, I love my family a lot, but I care about myself more than I care about my family. That might sound selfish to say.
No,
but I had to do it for me and not anybody else. I wasn't ready. The other times I tried to get sober, I wasn't ready. Yeah, I was trying to do it for somebody else, but I didn't want it for myself. I woke up in that jail cell and decided that I didn't want to be there anymore. This isn't who I am. And took those first 3 months, I cut everybody off. I quit responding to friends. If they couldn't respect any of my friends that had been with me that night when I got my DWI, I cut off. The week prior, if we go back to the night I got arrested, the week prior, I had just been put back on an antidepressant that I knew I had a history of. If I drank on, I black out in a couple sips, and I'm totally unpredictable. That's when I do the most fucked up shit, is when I drink on this medication. So I hadn't drank for the entire week prior. We go to have a Halloween party at my house, and I'm having friends, and I'm at the bar, and they're fucking pouring shots in my drink. Like, come on, just take one. Come on. It's Halloween party. We can do this. I'm like, well, fine. After 2 hours, I finally gave in, and my worst fear happened.
Sorry.
I blacked out and I woke up in a jail cell and I didn't know if I hurt anybody. I didn't know if I killed somebody. I didn't know if I burnt someone's house down. I mean, there's so many things running through my head that I could have possibly done that were so drastic, but I wouldn't have put it past me because I'm so unpredictable. And I finally asked and to find that it was just, to me, I shouldn't say it was just drinking and driving, but I got arrested. My DWI was sleeping in my car when I was arrested. I wasn't driving my vehicle. I had already fucked up prior to that, but I was arrested sleeping on the side of the road in an off vehicle.
Yeah.
That speaks so much to what you've been through, is the sense of relief from just drinking and driving.
Yeah, that's such a shitty thing to say, but at the same time, it's like, I know it could have been a lot worse. I don't want to talk about how worse it could have got, but I know what I could have done, what I'm capable of doing, what I have done. It could have been so much worse. And getting that DWI was the best thing that's ever happened in my life. Yeah. It's costed me a lot of money. It's costed me friendships. It's costed me a lot. I've quit a lot of the things that I love doing the most, like shooting shows. I used to be at shows 2, 3, 4 times a week, and now I'm at once every 4 months because they serve alcohol there, and that's where I personally think that is where the place is going to be. If I was to ever relapse, it's going to be at a show.
Well, think about the bartenders that once they got familiar with you, giving you free stuff like
as an underage. I mean, I have not been ID'd for shit since fucking 17 years old. Like, it's amazed me. And like, even if I was underage, you know how easy it is at a lot of these venues, if you just throw them a $5 bill, be like, hey, and they just give you the fucking 21 plus wristband, like, with no consequences. No one, once you're in there, they're not checking a thing. As long as that one security guard, if you've been there enough and you know that security guard, you throw them a 5, you throw them a 10, you throw them a little bit of weed, give them a little bump, you're going to be able to drink. And then you go inside and it's the bartenders, you throw them a $20 tip on your first rounds. The rest of the night, your drinks went from having 1 shot to now it's 3/4 booze and 1 shot of pop.
Right.
Like, just I easily establish relationships with people to my advantage.
Yeah. With like photography, people thought that we were cool. Yeah. Like, regardless of how quote unquote cool we actually were,
you guys are
like,
not cool.
we were just thrown into that category. Like, we know
with
that
the bands.
You're with the band.
You're
second
there,
you go behind the railing,
like, oh, you can walk back there? Like, yeah, you want to come back? No one, you can just do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm Riley Downs, man. Like, that was like, to me, it was like, yeah, I know I'm not as cool as I was, but to everybody else thinking that, I'm like, yeah, dude, this is people buying me drinks, people offering shit constantly.
That's exactly what I was
the whole
going to say.
time we were on tour, both first 2 times I went on tour.
Is that with Ice Nine?
No, I went on tour with a Villain of the Story.
Oh, that's right.
Actually, all 3 tours I went on them with. I was able to find whatever drug I wanted at every stop with little to no money. It was, I mean, without even a try. We were in Texas. We were in Texas for 5 fucking minutes, and I walked outside and saw some dude that was sniffing and was like, hey, you know? And within 5 minutes, I had a ball of coke. Like, and no one in the band knew I had it. Like, so not only am I able to acquire everything, I'm able to acquire it and do it. And no one knows.
Yeah.
And then just being a part of the band, we go inside. Well, guess what? We got 3 free pitchers of beer, and because I'm with the crew, I drink for free too. Like, you're with the band? Let me buy you a shot. Let's talk. Like, what's it like? Like, we can go on the bus? Here. Like, oh, you want to meet them? You want to do more than just talk to them quick at the fucking merch table? Well, here, just walk back with me, smoke a cig. We'll go talk to a couple of the members.
I want to go back to something though, that we were talking about previously, is that you weren't ready to get sober until you were ready.
Yeah.
Yep. And I talk about that a lot with family members, because people come into the ER, they're intoxicated, they're always drunk, this and that. It's like, we want to force that person into treatment. You can't force people to get help. You can commit people. So a county can commit somebody. But even I've seen people who have been committed to do treatment come out and they use, because they are not ready. You can't force people to be ready.
That was my biggest thing, is as much as I wanted to change for everybody around me, all it really made me do is be more secretive of what I was doing. Yeah. It wasn't I didn't want to change. It was I can do a bunch of drugs and drink and go to work and no one's going to fucking notice. All right, cool. I can continue doing this. Oh, I can go to family events and I just railed a huge ass line off my phone in the car and no one's gonna say a thing to me.
That's like the first time when I thought Chris was sober. Had talked to his parents about it, and his mom was very much like, we need to get him into treatment. We need to do this. We need to do that. And me telling her, like, he doesn't want that.
No.
We can't force him to do it. And then
if they don't realize they have the problem.
Yeah.
And
the thing is at that point, he didn't even realize he was hiding at that point that he was drinking, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. And it probably wasn't even thought as a problem. It was, well, I'm just not going to do this because you think I have a problem. Or you think this is an issue. Well, if you just don't know, where did the issue go?
Yeah.
The issue's no longer here.
Yeah. That's the thing that we were talking about earlier, is that, like, if you can convince somebody else to be sober, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Or wait, let me say that again. If you can convince somebody that they think you're sober, that's good as enough. Close to sobriety that you need to get. Because really all you're trying to do is get that judgment out of the way.
Yep.
I would say all the time, I wouldn't have a problem if people didn't think that I have a problem.
Yeah.
And like, the things were getting so close to being like completely out of control. Like, I snorted a line of Adderall on New Year's Eve, and from that point on, like, the only reason I wasn't doing cocaine was because I didn't have access to cocaine.
Yeah.
Like, that's
what's scary to me right now, is I still have access to anything that I want. I deleted and blocked everybody off my phone, and I'm getting text messages from dealers that I used to have off new phone numbers. Hey, bro, where you at? Like, hey, I know you don't do this anymore, but, like, can you push this for me? Or, do you know anybody that needs this? Or people text me like, yo, I know you don't do blow anymore, but can you find me some? It's like, yeah, I could find you some, but you don't have enough respect for me and my sobriety that you can't fuck off. Like, if I don't care. You want to go do drugs? I'm not one to judge you. I don't care. You want to do drugs? Be my guest. Do not come to me asking me for my drug of choice to find it for you. If you don't have enough respect for my sobriety, you're not worth my respect as a person, personally.
Well, I talked to so many people who didn't seem to get that.
Yeah.
Like I would bring that up all the time to people, because they tell you, like, before you're going to leave, like, delete those contacts, get all that stuff out of there. But people would say, like, you know, those are my friends, you know, I don't, and I would bring up, I would say, do the dealers know how to get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, they can.
And if you were as good of a customer as you're claiming to be, they don't want to let go of you.
No, why would they, when they're making $300 off me almost a day?
Yeah, people did, like,
I was selling drugs to pay for another drug habit, like.
Yeah.
Sell shit that I don't do. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sell all of this just so I can afford to do my $300 a day habit.
I felt like I was a crazy person because nobody believed me that
it's
shit
not
happens.
as easy. It's not as easy as you think. Like, everyone's like, oh, you can just delete the contact and block them. Last week, I got a phone call off of a number I didn't know, and they called me 5 times. It's 1:00 in the morning. I finally answer it. I'm like, what the fuck do you want? Hey, is this Riley? Yeah, it is. Hey, man, do you know where I get some blow at? No, get the fuck out of here. Like, freaked out about it. I have not actually yelled at somebody. I usually don't get mad anymore. I try really hard to. I have an anger issue. It's I'm the first to admit it. I have an anger issue. So instead of getting angry about things, I turn into a smart ass about it. That's my way of coping with it. I'm gonna make a joke. I'm not gonna get mad, because when I get mad, I do stupid things. I know every.
The only reason I laugh is because I.
Yeah. No, you know.
Yeah.
It's like some things I just can't keep my mouth shut on, and I know I need to, but I lost my shit on them. It's like, you're calling me at early as shit in the morning, asking for drugs, and you start your sentence with, "I know you don't do this anymore, but if you are calling me and your sentence starts with that." Don't ask. Don't even bother calling me.
Yeah.
Like, it's done. Like, but I didn't even have their number in my phone. Like, if they want to get a hold of you. If they want to push something to you, they're gonna fucking get a hold of you. Like, it's not as easy as even changing your phone number. You can change your phone number. That dealer, if they really want your phone number, they're gonna find your phone number.
Yeah. Especially if you ever helped them get customers.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
Yeah.
All you have to do is find someone that I hooked them up with, and they'll get my phone number for them. That's why I haven't changed my number. I know changing my number is going to do nothing besides lose all the contacts that I've made for other things.
Sure.
And when I go to message them, they're like, well, I don't have this number saved, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like.
Or you can be an alcoholic and your dealer's just everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an even scarier thing.
That is very scary.
I mean, I think alcohol, to me, is one of the worst drugs you can do.
Yeah.
And
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Well, and a lot of people disagree with me because, like, well, not everybody has a problem with it. Not everybody has a problem with doing coke. Not everybody has a problem with doing pills. You can go and do drugs and be okay, and then you go do something else and you're not okay with it.
Yeah.
Not everybody is the same. And alcohol is a recurring pattern that it ruins lives. And when that person can't handle it, either they're forced to get help or worse. It's either you get the help, you get to a point, when it comes to being an alcoholic, in my eyes, there's no growing out of it. It's something happened and now it's time for change, or something doesn't happen and you ruin everything and everyone you cared about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and it's the only type of withdrawals that it'll kill you. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the other ones you'll feel like shit. Awful. You'll want to feel like you want to die.
Yeah.
But alcohol withdrawals it can kill you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, and we've said it on here quite a few times now, but to quote Dr. Drew, it's not the substance that is inherently evil. It's an inanimate object. It's the environment and the individual.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how well you are able to cope with it. Once somebody has said that they are not able to, you have to take that as serious as somebody who says they're a diabetic.
Yeah.
You're not going to take a diabetic fucking trick or treating.
Yeah.
Like, don't expect somebody who has a problem and says that they're not comfortable with that stuff to just get over it and go along the ride with you for, it's so much more than just,
you're not going to expect someone with heart disease go to the Texas Roadhouse and get them the biggest steak full of all the fat and be like, eat the whole thing right now. I want to watch you eat it.
Yeah. You're not going to take somebody and place them in the environment. Mm-hmm. It's because it's more than like, I'm not telling you have to drink, or I'm not telling you have to do a line with me, but can you be by my side while I do all of this shit? Like, you've got to know that the strongest person, if it's thrown at you enough, can break you. Anything over time can break you down, and you can end up doing that shit all over again.
A lot of the problem that I see with a lot of people that have the opinions of why can't you just do this is because they've never had to deal with it. They've never had to feel the addiction. And me personally, I feel like every person has an addict in them. They just haven't found it. That's, to me, that's my personal view on it. I think everybody has an addiction to something. They just haven't found it yet. And until they find it, they'll never understand. Yeah. And unless you've gone through it, unless you've been, whether you personally are an addict or you have a family member that's an addict, girlfriend, whoever it may be, until you've gone through it and witnessed this or done it yourself, you're never going to understand it fully. Yeah. And that's another part, like one of my new favorite things I have been saying. Some should be listening. Some are talking when they should be listening. Oh yeah. And that's huge with me, especially on this topic. I don't talk about sobriety openly a lot, because when I try to talk about it, I get a lot of, it's not that hard to be sober. It might not be that hard for you, but it is for me. And if you can't respect that, get the fuck out of here. Yeah,
I hate when, like before I had like actually committed to, going to treatment and all that stuff. Yeah. People telling me how long they had gone without drinking. Cool. It was like, what? Okay, was it because you were doing it from morning until night? Like, what? I don't fucking care that you went 2 weeks without drinking. Who gives a shit?
I can go, I don't have to drink. I just drink every fucking day of the week, but I don't have a problem. Like, fucking good for you. Then fucking quit. Or wait till you fuck up. Then when you fuck up and decide you can quit and you can't, call me and I'll be there for you for sober support. Yeah. Like,
or like, I haven't drank in over a month, dude. Well, except for a couple of times, but
What was that?
I don't know. You want to go? Kim is still taking care of some stuff upstairs, but I am still fascinated by the concept of only one substance needs to be removed for you to be sober.
Yeah.
Or I mean, for your case, it's two things, but because you still smoke.
Yeah, so I do have my medicinal card here. I do smoke quite a bit of weed, but that's all I do. And I know I get looked down on claiming that I'm sober from people because I still do that, whether it's a medication or not. But for me, when I think about that, well, even if you're prescribed, it's still a drug. I'm like, okay, then you're addicted to your fucking sleeping med.
Yeah.
It's no different. Like,
well, I mean, so the reason why I bring it up is because I know a lot of people who smoke weed and are able to stay sober.
yeah.
Like, sobriety does not mean you're like abstinent.
Yeah, no.
Like, there's this, and I'm not promoting that people should like that, like that this
Just
is a
you're
green
sober
light
for one thing, you can do the other. Like,
yeah.
No,
I like, for me personally, I can tell that I can't do anything.
yeah.
But that's just for me. And like, and you can say, statistically speaking, once you open up that gateway, if you've already confronted that you're an addict, yada, yada. But I can't help but be fascinated by the amount of people who are smoking weed and do not live these destructive lifestyles anymore.
I have friends that were heroin addicts that are no longer, that they do coke still, or they do pills still, and they live a total functioning normal life, and they're able to do it every once in a while. But if you get them, they can't. I mean, they used to do heroin, and now it shocks me too, because like with me, I think of I see weed as a completely different thing than a lot of people do. To me, it's a plant. It's a natural thing. It's a medication now. I mean, there's so much things that are different with this in my eyes, in my views on it, and I know I share different views than everybody else on it. But I agree that it's frowned upon to say that I'm sober or claim that I'm sober when I still smoke weed. Yeah. But I am sober. I'm sober from alcohol. I'm sober from coke. Like,
yeah. Well, and again, because chemical dependency people and like drug and alcohol counselors, they want to point out what your substance was taking away from you, and the type of scenarios that it was thrusting you into that you didn't have control over.
Yeah.
And the people that, I mean, a friend of mine has been sober for 8 years, and like, he doesn't drive high. He's not doing, for some reason, weed, it has a I want them to do more research into that, because I'm fascinated as to what is it that's different about this chemical that doesn't make you feel like you have to have it. Because what happens with the chemical substance abuse is that you create that pathway. You know about that, like the midbrain and all that stuff?
Yeah, your brain basically creates it so that you trick your brain into thinking that it needs it, basically.
So your midbrain associates... So thousands of years ago, in order to have... to make survival... your brain figured out a way to make survival enjoyable, so that you would continue to do that thing. You would continue to look for food. You would continue to drink water. A little dopamine kick would happen. We took that survival piece out of it, but when you introduce substance, it still activates that same thing. So your midbrain, once addiction finally happens, says, okay, we now know that dopamine means survival.
Yep.
And since we introduce this thing, we need to make sure that they're constantly looking for that same level. So that's why, like, people say, like, they're trying to chase that same high that they had the first time. It's because your brain literally thinks that it has to hit the same level every single time. So it skips your limbic system, which normally is like you contemplating, and goes straight to the prefrontal cortex. And so that's why, like, people are like, I didn't even think that I wanted to drink, but I was reaching for a bottle before I even knew it was happening. Like, so I'm fascinated to know, and again, I hope they do research on it. Why doesn't marijuana...
I don't think that's true. I've seen people freak out when they can't get marijuana.
No.
Oh.
You misunderstood. You came in late on the conversation. Why, for some people who had full-blown addictions, marijuana does not do the same thing to them. I have multiple friends who were alcoholics, and I was saying this to him before you came back down. I know that I have to stay abstinent from everything. I know that I don't have an option because consumption is with food, soda, whatever. Like, I just have a problem overall with everything.
Yeah.
But I would love to know why they're able to do this, and it's not.
But some
a
people can have
necessity
full
for them.
addictions to heroin and opiates, and they can easily just have a drink occasionally and be able to handle that.
That's the
I
same.
think it's-
That's the same concept.
But I
then.
think it's just, I don't know.
So that's the same thing. Why is it that certain chemicals don't activate that same part of the brain and don't make that a survival need on a subconscious level?
I've been seeing a lot of people using a lot of other states with legal marijuana using marijuana as a recovery for substance abuse.
Really?
Yeah, it's starting to be used as a treatment program for like opiate addiction. And that's where I want to, like, the same thing where I kind of question it myself. I'm like, just because I can handle it. So they're using this, what was 10 years ago, this was a serious drug. I mean, even within the last, 2 years, the law changed in Minnesota. Yeah. Like, this was you were pretty much fucked if you got caught.
What was it? It's a class 1 drug? Or?
Fuck, I can't remember what it got.
I forget what they call it, but on a federal level, it's still a class 1, which is the same as heroin and all that shit.
Yeah, but no, it decriminalized here. I mean, just in the last 5 years, what we've learned about this plant, what it can do, and now that they're using it as a recovery use,
wow.
I think that's tricky, though, trying to use it as a recovery tool, because some people can have psychotic episodes from marijuana.
Well, see, I think the same thing, though, when you're using, like, methadone. I mean, what makes you...
I know, and Suboxone, stuff like that.
That amazes me, too. It's like where people are like, well, they shouldn't be using weed for that. I'm like, well, then why are they using why is methadone and Suboxone okay? Like, where does a man-made thing make it okay versus a plant not okay?
Yeah, and I think it's like research right now.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to continue to learn. I think
we don't know enough.
When scientists have the funding to be able to create a safe version of this thing, like, what was the old version of aspirin that would kill people? There's this was decades ago. There was this old, I wish I could remember what it was called, this old version of aspirin that would just destroy your organs. And it's just progress. Like, with science, they go, oh, we need to take that out. So over time, I think like cannabis is going to be in that same way where they're like, this will not get you high at all. This is simply to target inflammation, or it's simply
CBD.
to target.
They're already starting to pull it apart.
Yeah. Well, and with psychoactives, they're like with the few states that are able to do that research.
Using mushrooms as a cure for depression. Microdosing mushrooms as a cure for depression.
Well, and
psilocybin.
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And
it amazes me it's taken this long for them to be open to try it.
Yeah.
That's what amazes, like, it blows my mind how long it's taken us to advance when they've been so adamant on creating these things in a lab. You're creating shit in a lab and okay with putting it on the public right away. But there's these things that have been around forever, and you're so adamant on fucking researching it.
Yeah. Well, and I think people associate when they hear weed, even if it's on, like, you have a medical card, they still picture like a drug dealer giving you that shit, and they don't understand that it's gone through these motions and it's going to continue to change, and it will become as benign as taking Tylenol or taking
anything over the counter stuff. Yeah. I mean, when I go pick up my medical prescriptions, I meet with an actual pharmacist. Like, these people aren't just off the street. They went to school. Like, they're legitimate pharmacists that are now pharmacying marijuana. You ask them, you go talk with your doctor, you meet with them, they have different things you can do. Like, Minnesota, you can't smoke flower here. Minnesota's medical program, there's no flower. It's vaporizer cartridges, like capsules, oral spray or lotion. So, like, there's no actual flower here, which to me it doesn't make sense. Is why would you take a natural thing and turn it unnatural?
Right. I bet it's got to be because of the federal law.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, but they'll tell you straight up, like, because I have 2 different pens that I use, and then I get a lotion, and they're all for different things. I have my one pen for my panic attacks, and I have another pen for my pain the one I can go for my panic attacks. I hit that 2-3 times, and I see why it's for panic attacks, because now I can't remember what I was even thinking about, and everything's funny. And then I go to the other side of it where I grab my one for pain, and I can hit it 4 or 5 times and walk into work, and no one, you would never, if I walked up to you, you would never know that I even just smoked. I mean, there's so much to it that isn't known about it. Yeah. And there's so many different strains. I mean, so many different variations of what this plant can do. Yeah. And we're only now just learning about this. Yeah. And they're just not researching it enough.
Well, and I mean, I always have to make it clear that, like, I don't advocate for going out and smoking weed. If you're in recovery, this is not, don't trick yourself into thinking this is an excuse because 2 dudes who made sense, 2 guys on a podcast sounded pretty smart about this thing. Like, no.
I'm not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I barely have a high school diploma.
Yeah. Like, these are all
this guy too.
Yeah, these are all thought experiments in the sense that, like, I just am fascinated to learn about this shit as it moves forward. Don't, like, quit drinking and then go to a drug dealer and start buying weed. Like,
don't replace one addiction with another one.
Yeah.
As we're drinking my diet soda addiction problem over
fantastic. Okay. Riley, is there any, like, coming into this, I thank you for sharing all the stuff that
thank you
for
having me, you guys.
I obviously love the ever living shit out of you.
Love you, daddy.
I think you were actually the first to, like, start that movement, like the daddy thing.
Calling you daddy.
Of my friends. Like, that wasn't a thing for a long time.
Yeah, Chris was photo daddy the second he had an emergency inhaler, even though he hadn't had asthma problems in how many years?
Maybe once a year I'll have to use it, but that's even then.
Yeah, that's you locked in the photo dad that day, and then the following show right after that was when we shot Rise Against together.
Oh yeah.
And the dad jokes just one after another. First time we ever actually, like, hung out and met, basically. I think that was, like, one of the first times it was just me and you. Yeah. That was the first time it was just me and you, was when we shot Rise Against together. And just the instant dad, even though you're only, 6 years older than me?
I'm 33.
Fuck, you're old.
Yeah. I was going to say 9 years
older.
Sorry,
9 years older than me. I mean, man, you reproduced young. But, yeah, I mean, just even then, the photo dad, it just adapted quickly. I'm like, this is father. Hello, Poppy.
But, so coming into this, like, what message do you hope that people take away from what you've been through?
You never know what someone's been through. Like, you gotta my biggest thing that's helped me, I mean, personally, is just having an open mind to things. If you go into there expecting it to be shitty, you're gonna see it as shitty no matter how the outcome is. If you go in there with a clear mind, knowing that there's multiple reasons as to why this happened, basically, you gotta be more understanding. You can't just assume. Assumptions do not work when it comes to sobriety. You can't assume anything about anyone's sobriety. Everybody's sobriety is different. Mm-hmm. And you never understand, a lot of people don't understand why people do the things that we do. And you gotta keep an open mind. Yeah. It's the biggest thing is you never know what someone's been through. You never know why they do the things that they do. They could be the worst person in your eyes, and then you hear what they've been through and you want to cry. Like, you never know what someone's been through and why they act the way that they do,
or why they use, or what led them down that path.
It wasn't just everyone's like, well, it was their decision. I'm like, yeah, it was their decision to do the drug, but what the fuck caused them to want to do that? Because it didn't just because I promise you, if I was raised in an upper class white home, I probably wouldn't have turned out the way that I have. Two totally different situations.
And I think too, you used substances as a coping skill because you weren't taught healthy coping mechanisms as a young.
No, I was taught that you're a man, be a man.
So suck it up, put it aside. And how did you suck it up and put it away?
I wanted Riley to just give his.
I feel like I didn't get to talk as much. I'm trying to add in my little 2 cents. That's it. That was it. Okay.
Do you if people want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram. My Twitter handle is at @FuckRileyDowns. We changed that from a business name because I say too many inappropriate things to have it linked to my business.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, basically I'm on Facebook.
So like your Instagram is just Riley Downs?
My Instagram is Riley Downs Photo.
Okay.
I don't post a lot of anything about my sobriety on my
Oh, okay.
on my photo page, but I do on my Twitter. I'm very active about sobriety and my mental health, and there's a lot of shit. I mean, I've learned that a lot of people say you shouldn't put things online. Like if you're depressed, don't talk about it online. Go do something about it. For me, I'm opening up. It's taken me 24 years to be able to actually talk about what's going on with me and what I'm feeling. So I mean, I'm very vocal online about how I feel about things, why I feel the things that I feel, why I'm staying sober, why it means so much to me, why I'm able to be around people that aren't sober. Like it took me a year. It was a year before I was comfortable going into somewhere that sold alcohol, let alone hanging out with my friends that are drinking.
Sure.
And now I'm able to go hang out with my friends that are drinking and offer me drinks and still be able to sit there for a few, and then leave. I mean, I never make it through a full night anymore.
Sure.
But yeah. I mean, it's all progress.
Kim, what would you like people to take away from today's episode?
Our kids are really loud. Our dogs whine a lot. No. I like the open mind thing too. And I feel like we talk a lot about I feel like there's so much mental health with substance use.
Yeah.
I feel like there are cases where it's just substance use or, but I feel like a lot of times there's some underlying mental health.
I feel like it gets overlooked a lot. I think a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand mental health still. I mean, this is for a lot of people, this is a new generation of mental health where
we're talking about it. People talk about therapy. Everyone has, a lot of people have therapists. Oh, yeah.
Some of my friends I would have thought would have never had a single problem in the world see a psychiatrist once a week now. Yeah. Like, you never know what someone goes through. Yeah. And they don't have to have a bad life to struggle with mental health. They don't have to have a bad life, or they don't have to have a good life.
Yeah. Chemicals. Chemical imbalance, a lot of it. I mean, there's more to it. There could be trauma and all that too, but depression, anxiety, so much we don't know. It's all just now being brought to light that, this could cause this, and this is probably why this caused this to happen throughout your life. Yeah. And a lot of there's just not enough funding for mental health. No. So it's not. Unfortunately, and that's something that needs to change. But what's interesting, is that with insurance, we can all go get a physical every year, wellness check for free. Yep. Why can't twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, we can go get our mental health checked for free? Yeah, because we can get our physical body checked once a year for free.
I get my insurance, I go to the doctor 1 time a year unless I desperately need to. Yeah. And if I don't, I'll see her next year. But
we're a system, or if our mental health's not well, we're physically ill. Yeah. You can see so many physical issues if your mental health's not well. And then if you're physically not well, then it affects your mental health. So I'll leave it with that. That's my...
Oh, I think that was great. Obviously we share the same views on mental health. I think you do too. Yeah.
I dedicate my life to it.
Yeah. We've always
misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to mean that you're, pulled over on the side of the road crying to a Coldplay song. Yeah. Like it could anything that it might not bring you to the point of tears. It might not make you in a full rage, but if it's consistently enough, maybe you have dysthymia. Maybe there could be anything, so you could improve your life just by acknowledging that one thing and then moving forward.
I do want to point out, even working in mental health, I've worked in mental health for many, many years. I'm a nurse. I have a master's degree, and I'm very vocal about my own mental health. My anxiety.
As you should be.
Yeah. I just want people to know, I'm an expert in mental health, and I struggle with it. And that's why I work in it, is so people don't feel like...
Everybody has their own issues, whether you think they do or not. Yep. Mental health is with everybody. Even people, if they don't think they have a mental health issue, they probably do, and they just haven't recognized it. It hasn't came to life yet.
Yep.
Oh my God, the amount of people who didn't think that they had PTSD that were in the facility that I was at, it was crazy. Yeah. And it's not that they assumed that everybody else had these episodes.
Yeah.
They just knew that it was their thing, but they thought it ended there. Like, oh yeah, it's just something that I have.
Yeah.
And like, I just wake up screaming like,
yeah. Oh wait,
Yeah.
you don't wake up in the middle of the night sweating like you just took a shower, panicking, and then can't fall back asleep. It's just me.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was a normal thing.
I do want to say though, too, to end it, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you
for
I appreciate
opening your
that a lot.
mind. And known you for as many years, and
Yeah.
when you said you were like, F this, I don't want to do therapy, for you to have gone through EMDR and how intense and crazy as it can get, and for you to be where you're at right now, you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I'm
Yeah.
trying really hard to stay on this movement of bettering myself, and so much more just taking away if you're struggling with something. For what I want to say for the last, I guess, if you're struggling with any type of addiction, it gets better. If you can find a way to get through it, it gets better. It's opened up so many opportunities for me getting sober. Like, the biggest one is my physical health, not just my mental health. I've lost almost 150 pounds in a year and a half, or in 20 months. Like, I'm back to a normal size. I'm back to normal healthy. I'm able to make clearer judgments about things. I'm able to open my mind and realize that there's more to everything. I've just becoming sober has just helped. It's improved my life so much. And like, I don't have anything against people that are able to go out and have a few drinks or able to go do drugs. I'm not condoning it, but I'm not gonna be upset about it. Like, it's not my choice. I'm not you. We all make our own decisions, but it gets better if you can push past it. That sobriety, it feels so much better, and realizing and being able to talk about your problems, and when you find people that you can talk to about it, because that was the hardest thing for me. Is I'm surrounded by addicts, but nobody's fucking talking about it.
Yeah.
None of us want to admit it. And then when we try to talk about it, it's a fight. Like, I don't have a problem, you're an asshole. Like, just being able to find that group of people that are sober and clear, having the same, even if we don't share the same views on things, just being able to have that clear-headedness and talk about our issues it's just amazing. Sobriety's been the best thing for me. It's bettered my life. I didn't think I'd be here by now. Like, that, getting past 21 wasn't something that was on my agenda. I had figured I'd be either dead or in prison by 21. So this is all pissing in the wind. It was it was all pissing in the wind up until not that long ago. And I'm like, all right, it's time for change. And fixing one problem allowed me to fix a drop list of other problems I had. And I'm still not better, but I'm getting better.
Yep.
I'm not.
We're all
better.
work in progress, but you're
You're
from
not perfect.
20 months ago till now, it's
a lot has changed. My personal view, like my life views on everything, have changed. It gets better.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll just do the normal plugs, because I think you guys did a fantastic job of talking about the important things. So, if you're listening to this and you would like to be featured, whether in let it be known who you are, or anonymously, we have that option where we can alter your voice and just have it be a phone call, and nobody has to know if you're in active use or if you're in recovery and just don't want people to know that you've been through whatever you've been through, but still want to get that stuff off of your chest. We absolutely welcome that. Please follow us, Duck Grey Duke, for all social media. We're offered on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Subscribing to those things makes a pretty big difference in what we're trying to accomplish here. And I know I say it every time, but like this is hands down the strongest thing in my life right now that helps keep me sober. Like, it's the only consistent thing that I'm doing that, like, because I don't do AA meetings, I don't do NA meetings, I'm not doing any of the like traditional methods of staying sober. So having this outlet and the opportunity for Kim to be able to give her side of things, like from the family perspective and the spouse's perspective, is just, it means of the world to me. So please, I hope you guys support that. And as you heard in the commercial break, cleancause.com, you can use promo code TNSAA to get 20% off of your order. Obviously that yerba mate is fucking slamming and we love it.
We ran out. We got to get some. We got to buy some more.
All right, and we end it the way that you like end your turn in an NA meeting or an AA meeting, either one, which is, and with that we will pass.